Now, there are a number of things that I want to talk about today, um, particularly because there are a few questions that keep coming up, um, either specifically to me or some of the questions that I see generally in the investing world. And then I thought it will be a good idea, first of all, to clarify some of these facts before we go into a bit more detail. Now, most of you know me, but just to introduce myself, I'm an author and a fund manager. So my books are called Eco Economics. I've written two books. I'm writing my third book that should come out early part of next year. I don't know, very soon. Soon I might say slightly later because I haven't really finished it. But um, the books are being used pretty much like, I can say, natural medicine. Right? There is one joke that I keep saying, like if I'm just having a cup of tea right here, so I can have this tea as just something warm for the throat, or I can use it to cure maybe a cough, or in some cases, maybe if I wanted to have like a peppermint tea, for instance, I can use it in case I have a bad stomach. Right? So pretty similarly, I hear from readers on the way in which they've used my book. So I thought I'll talk about that. Ecoeconomics 1, sorry, am I showing this right? Ecoeconomics 1, this is navigating the path to a sustainable future. I have a few business owners who have come back and said, I liked, you know, the concepts that you have talked about. There are a number of interventions that are mentioned in the book. There is actually, if you look at it, there are 15 chapters. And among those 15 chapters, there are at least 10, 12 interventions that the companies that I've studied, they do a number of these interventions. So some of them came back and said, I'm using two or three of your interventions and I'm finding it useful for my business. That's great news for me. So similarly, you can use it as well. Um, Now, my business is built on these books, but my business is more oriented towards the investing world. So you don't need to be a high net worth individual to use my books. You don't need to be a high net worth individual to follow the methods that I talk about, because you can build your own sort of portfolio. You can use it for your business, etc. Similarly, this book, um, Ecoeconomics, one. So this has also been used by a few consulting firms who have taken the book and they built their own consulting framework on this book, and they run it for that, basically for their clients. I have a firm in India, I have a firm in UK who spoke to me about it and said, "Do I need to license some of this?" I said, "The book is available in the public domain, right? So if you build a consulting framework based on that, that is your property. Please go ahead and use it." So that's something that I've seen. I have also seen, I published a second book back in January this year. It's called Eco Economics 2. It says investing in a youthful, sustainable market. So this book talks about various trends in the ecoeconomics market itself. And if you'll see um, the the kind of sustainability mindset that we're talking about, understanding the younger generations and why that is very, very important, etc. This is what I talk about in this book. Now, this book has been used by several individuals that have told me um, that they've used the trends in this book to identify stocks, invest in them, uh, and over the last few months, they have found it to be profitable. It's not a very long time. This book came out only in February. So they've been using it maybe for the last 6 months at best. Um, but let's say there's a handful of individuals who have used it. There is also a few investment advisors who have taken the trends that I've talked about in the book and they've created a portfolio for their clients. So they picked a few stocks based on the trends that I talk about, and they've built a portfolio for their clients. Interestingly, I also have a number of students who have told me, so I followed the insights in the book. I did further research on it, and I've been able to find myself a job in sustainable finance, in the sustainability team of a corporate, or I work in ESG analysis. I've heard about 10 different career paths. I'm just saying maybe it could be more, but I remember at least about 10 different career paths that people have found by following the insights in the book. Uh, it hasn't sold in millions. So obviously, it's still in the thousands. It's about 5,000, 6,000 people who have bought the book, but obviously they will also be sharing it because it's, among the 5,000 copies that have been sold, there are a number of libraries that, um, uh, have a copy of the book. So it's one to many. So I haven't sold millions. So it's still in the thousands. So I expect to see a bit more. So what I wanted to say in here was, if you think you can benefit from it, please feel free to get a copy of the book. It's available on Amazon and all the other major bookstores, whichever one you like. Um, it's available as ebook as well as a paperback. So whatever format works for you, please go ahead and get that. Use it to your benefit, right? If you're a business owner, use it to transform your business, become more profitable. If you're a student, use it to your benefit, finding yourself the right kind of job opportunities, etc. If you're in the early stages of your career, use it to kind of understand this world of sustainability, green investing, where the money is going, etc., and kind of benefit from that as well, right? Uh, now, now the other thing that I also wanted to talk about is this book kind of gives you uh, two things. These books kind of give you two things which normally you don't find in the world, because most of the economic research and market studies, etc., have uh, a certain political agenda behind it. I always say economics is 99.99% politics and 0.0001% implementation of that politics. So if you take economic models of a certain time and try to apply it to the present moment, it probably doesn't work because the same political conditions don't apply right now. So, uh, so from that perspective, uh, what I what I generally try to say is there are a few major policy objectives. So like financial stability of the individual, of the institutions, of government itself, is a major policy objective. And a lot of it goes down to things like pensions, employment, cost of living, your ability to borrow at a certain rate, etc. So all of this is kind of related. The other big area is health and social care. Um, so where we invest our funds in, where we invest our time and effort in terms of policy, in terms of capital being driven there. Where does it go? Thirdly, if you look at the whole area around employment, um, so we need younger workers to come into the workforce, but we don't have a conducive environment for younger workers to come into the workforce. We don't generally consider that. If you look at these set of policy objectives, and then you look at the policy implementation is kind of diagonally opposite to what it is. So for all of this stated policy objectives to work, what we need is a young workforce. And you need a market that invests uh, in the younger generations. Unfortunately, if you look at it, the stated policy objectives are diagonally opposite, or I can say, uh, kind of has a perverse incentive when implemented. What perverse incentive means is that when you hit somebody, they are shocked, they're in pain, they're not a pleasure, right? But then if that person says, slap me one more time, I find it very nice. Right? Now that's basically perverse incentive. Right? That's exactly how policy is working in most of the Western economies. If you basically look at it, uh, and the reason why I say that is it's vote bank politics, right? So how people vote um, depends largely on their own personal circumstances and the issues that they are passionate about. And if you look at it, most political parties don't target the younger generations, the 18 to 30 who can vote. I think, except for the Green Party here in the UK, and there are a few other smaller parties that have a fan following among the 18 to 30 age group. Many of the political parties are not specifically targeting this group, and there are some real reasons behind it, right? It is easier to influence a 65 plus age group individual. It is easier to influence somebody in the 50 to 65 age group. Even if you basically look at it, the 25 to 49 age group is also easier to influence. The 18 to 24 is the toughest one to influence. Uh, so uh, based on that, if you typically look at it, the vote bank is largely skewed towards the aged part of the population. And thereby, a lot of the work that we do in policy implementation is targeted towards the older generation. So, as an example, in health and social care, we are more interested in building bigger hospitals, uh, reducing the waiting time for appointments for somebody who has cancer, etc., etc. Yes, you have to do that. This is absolutely essential. This cannot go on. I'm not saying no to it, but that often comes at the expense of many preventable diseases for the younger generation because we don't invest enough in those areas. So we have a fair number of people within the under 30 population who have troubles reaching their GP, etc., for sexual health related consultations, fertility related consultations, and you have a fair amount of trouble with things around obesity, pre-diabetes, hypertension, whole range of issues that are there, for which I would say it does not need rocket science. It needs testing, it needs consultations, it needs even at least a nurse appointment to actually look at it, right? But that is not where policy tends to throw the money at. Policy tends to throw the money at getting people sick and sick and then investing in larger hospitals, improving the queuing time over there. This is how things work. So similarly, if you look at pensions, we are more bothered about where the pension money is being invested into. If you look at most of the service sector organization, banks, IT companies, many other service sector businesses, if you look at it, a major part of their expense pool is staff cost, salaries, pensions. That is where most of the cost comes from. But the way that is kind of invested in, basically pensions, very specifically, way that is invested in would not be towards the younger generation; it will be towards the older generation. If you typically look at it, but you need younger people to sign up to it. Only then you will have your ability to draw a pension today at age 67, 68, or whatever is that age, depends on that bloke who just joined, um, started work yesterday. That's the reality, right? If you want to call it a Ponzi scheme, call it what you want. But pensions are the longest running Ponzi scheme on the planet. Uh, but you need younger workers to come in, join the workforce. We don't do enough to motivate them. Uh, if you look at it, the big boys are investing in these areas for a very long time. So a lot of what I write in these books, ecoeconomics and ecoeconomics too, a lot of what I write about is observing how these big boys are investing. Many PE firms are investing in these areas. Many large institutional investors invest in these areas. And uh, if you look at it, uh, we can learn a lot from that. But in general, retail investors are not going to look at it. They are not going to get an understanding about it. Thirdly, your financial advice is probably also not going to consider these factors. Not saying your financial advice is bad, but many retail investors are exposed to bad financial advice. To a part, I can relate that to social media and wrong influence, etc., etc. To a part, I can relate to it. Even within the formal financial advice business, uh, many of these factors are not being looked at from a retail investor's perspective. So if you're a retail investor, 30, 35, you're probably going to be investing in the market for like 20 years, 25 years. You can definitely look at these um, these trends, and you can make um, a good portfolio out of stocks that you select from here. Now, this week, what is going on? Now, the European Union inflation rate came up this morning. So I saw that 2.1% versus a forecast of 2% slight increase. I'm not too worried about it. Um, but it does tell us that there are still weaknesses and sticky inflation that we need to be worried about. Um, in the US, we will receive the manufacturing PMI later today. In the US, we will be looking at job openings. There's been a change in the data collection in the US. So if you're in for a shock, please be aware that there is a change in the data collection more recently. So don't be shocked by that. But please be aware of what is going on at the back. Right. We will also be looking at the UK's retail sales month on month. In the US, we will then be expecting the unemployment rate on Friday afternoon. So that's macroeconomic news that is coming to us. But other than that, what we also have to be aware of is there are a number of you know uh, earnings that are expected. So among what we've seen so far, I can say that for a large part, many of the uh, you know um, here is something that I keep saying: earnings surprises. Either the analysts are subsided and they've given you an estimate that is more conservative, or they still don't know how to figure out what constitutes an earnings surprise versus not, right? So over 200 companies in the S&P 500 have earnings surprises. And if that's the shocking state of analysis that you receive, so if you can't estimate it, then I doubt the whole research process. I doubt the whole financial advice that that it that kind of builds on top of it. So somewhere some things are going wrong. So last week we also talked about how the S&P 500 returns have been largely influenced by the Magnificent seven tech companies, and why that is a problem. Because these tech companies have much larger swings, much larger drawdowns than the 496 other companies. Yes, it is 496 because the S&P 500, though it is 500, it actually constitutes 503 stocks. So with that, these seven stocks can have wild swings during the day, and that contributes to a large extent to it all. So by all means, index investing is great, but please be aware of what the drawdown is. Please be aware of now how you can manage that. There are overlays that are possible. There are equal weight portfolios that are available. So that could be also one of the ways to kind of look at um, the uh, better smoothing of the returns. For us, essentially here at Helix, we use the S&P 500 as a benchmark. And what we did was using the economics thesis, we picked S&P 500 stocks, and that basically exceeds the S&P 500 by 5 to 7%, just by picking stocks based on this. And you can do it also. Get a copy of the book, read it, use it to pick your stocks. By taking some of the trends that are available and by investing in this, obviously we use an AI system at the back to kind of find the right signals. But even if you just use the insights in the book, you can still deliver maybe up to 10% above the S&P 500 or any other benchmark that you would use. Any market benchmark can be used as your baseline, and then you can expect to deliver better returns than that, right? And it's something that you can do as an individual, something that you can do in your spare time. You don't need to be financial expert to do this. Many of the concepts here in the book are very, very simple, easy to understand, uh, and you will be able to relate to companies around you and the companies that you tend to buy your products and services from. So you will be able to understand which companies you're talking about and which ones fit the trend. Pick them. We also talk about how to value this. Right? We use a method called EcoMOS. Um, you can kind of understand how to value this and how to use this. Largely, I would say it's very simple fifth grade maths that is needed for year five maths, which is needed for most part, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, that is needed. You don't need complex economic models or anything in order to do most of this. Uh, and you can beat your ETF cousins, right? So that's the message for today. And as always, please reach out to me in case you have any questions, or if you want to tell me about your own investing journey. Feel free to reach out. Feel free to talk about your challenges, opportunities that you're looking at. I'll be more than happy to share my insights as well. Thank you.